From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. Nigerian troops neutralized more than 20 terrorists in week-long operation in various parts of Borno State. State governments urged to prioritize public-private partnerships over reliance on borrowing to fund infrastructure. UK government warns thousands of international students risk deportation if they overstay their visas.
In business, Debt Management Office announces allotment of August 2025 federal government savings bonds totaling 3.3 billion naira.
And in sport, 9 international teams gear up to make big splash on Lagoon as Lagos prepares to host first ever Grand Prix next month.
Welcome. Tonight begins now. We'll begin tonight with security. From the northeast, we understand troops of Operation Hadin Kai, supported by the air component, neutralized more than 20 terrorists during a week-long operation in various parts of Borno State. The operation spanned the general areas of Gubba, Gubio, Sabsawa, Wumtakum in Chibok local government area, Mandarari in Kodunga local government area, Gadi Ghana in Majumeri local government area, and Kodunga, Banki, and Loskori Kura in Mafa local government area. A statement from Lieutenant Colonel Sani Uba, Media Information Officer, Joint Task Force, OPHK, said several terrorist logistics suppliers and collaborators were arrested during the operations. He said the military high command had commended troops for their determination and dexterity and assured them of unwavering support to sustain the fight against insurgency. The Director General of Nigeria's Debt Management Office, Patience Oniha, has urged state governments to focus on generating tax revenue and adopting public-private partnerships to fund infrastructure projects rather than relying solely on borrowing. At a World Bank facilitated workshop in Lagos, Oniha emphasized that public-private partnerships can boost Nigeria's economic growth by attracting private sector investment and expertise. This, she explained, would reduce the fiscal burden on governments, speed up project completion, improve quality outcomes, create jobs, and encourage innovation. CEO at Cowrie Asset Management, Johnson Chukwu, and accountant Olusegun Okunade join me now for this conversation. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Let me start with you, Mr. Chukwu. The Debt Management Office is advocating effective debt management practices in Nigeria, and right now, the warning is to state government. Why is that such a priority? Mr. Chukwu, if you can hear me, sir. Okay, Mr. Okunade, if you can take that on now, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I listened to your prologue on the response of the DG of the debt management, speaking to the state's government or the subnationals on areas where they need to improve in the debt management portfolios that they have by considering looking internally as against relying on external borrowing. Sincerely speaking, is the way to go. If we look at the current foreign exchange, which we have currently, which we have considered as creating more burden to some of the borrowing we are making internationally. But be it as it may, if we need to engage the private sector internally, the government themselves, both at the federal and the subnational, need to make certain things much more available. And I'll speak to the area of security. Having a conducive environment for business growth will definitely enhance quality delivery and improve improve the contribution that the organization will make to the government by paying their taxes regularly. We have seen from the new tax policy, the new tax act that has just been signed by Mr. President, of the collaboration that would definitely come in between the Federal Inland Revenue, which will now be regarded as the Nigerian Tax Revenue Service, and the subnational, streamlining some of what we refer to as multiple taxation on the part of businesses in the country. If we can have the government adhere to some of these things that are embedded in the fiscal policy as entrenched in the new tax law that has just been signed, you will see a lot of relief that will give business growth to business organization in the country. And that on its own will definitely give way for private organization to carry out basic things that will assist in the development of our environment. I think is the way to go, but government on their own part to have a lot to do to create that enabling environment, because truth be told, that with the current foreign exchange cost, it's becoming overburdened on several organizations that have to rely on foreign borrowing.
All right, I understand we have Mr. Chukwu back. Okay, we're having a bit of a challenge with our connection with Mr. Chukwu, so I'll stay with Mr. Okwade. The DMO says borrowing requests have flouted the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which stipulates that borrowing should be for capital projects and human development purposes. How did the DMO consider this as a mere gap and not flag it as criminal non-compliance?
Felicity, I have this to say that there are several things that are wrong with our system. And a lot of us will say why we are where we are today, it's because there are no consequence management. There are a lot of wrongdoings on the part of those that are leading us and those that are being led, and that are not actually being punished, which now becomes a norm. If you are stating that we have actually exceeded the threshold of actually what are the measures that we are actually putting in place, how did we even get there? Because as the earth, your major area of concern is to monitor and advise the government in order to stay within the stipulated rules governing the debt management. If you have created that based on one thing or is to avail the room to say we at one point, created or overlooked what is supposed to have been done. And when such thing happens, you create pressure even on the future of the growth and development of such country. If this has happened, and we all realize that the major reason at which we must have this is for human capital and development. You and I understand that a lot of our resources that have been developed humanly in the country are actually advancing into other nations, not even repatriating back some of the funds that are actually making up there, which is really not assisting us. So I feel that area of address here is to speak to consequential management. When things are not done the way it should be done, as stipulated under the law, there should be punishment and consequences for those that have actually allowed the government to go beyond that which is expected of them.
We're talking about, right now, it's about borrowing guidelines, and what we are seeing is some kind of moral persuasion. Where do the real regulatory powers lie if we're merely talking guidelines and initiating advocacy?
Yeah, well, both works side by side. First and foremost, I'm of the advocate that we should adhere with the rules as against persuasive act, which we are coming to talk to the state government not to do. Don't forget, when this administration came on board, we know of the two key policies, which is the removal of subsidy and unification of our foreign exchange, that have given more revenue to the government, and the state government has have opportunity to enjoy more and receive more from the center. But we've asked ourselves, Where are those that are supposed to be monitoring and actually asking questions about the spending of the subnational? A lot of us pick up budget of the federal government, but how many of us ask questions about the way the state expends their funds that are actually being generated? A lot of them also go at length in generating higher IGR. But the spending is actually the major concern, because there are still loopholes. There are actually opportunity for people to cut away with so much of government funds without questioning. And that on its own put pressure on the deliverable that they are supposed to make to the people. I feel that both align with the law and being persuasive go side by side, but I think we should be more stricter, in sticking with what the rule says and punish as many that might want to actually, defy the law to their advantage.
All right, let's try with Mr. Johnson Chukwu again. Mr. Chukwu, if you can hear me, can you acknowledge, please? Good evening.
Good evening, Felicity. Apologies, the network decided to take the whole sharing out of the program.
I understand completely. Sometimes these things happen. But now that we have you, let me go back to the first question I put to Mr. Okwade. The DMO is advocating effective debt management practices in Nigeria. And right now, the focus is warning state government. Why do you think it's such a priority at the moment?
Well, bear in mind that the state governments are major contributors to the GDP, and they contribute, in terms of share of the GDP, federation allocation, they take, between the states and the local government, which the states invariably control, they take over more than 50% of share of the federation allocation. So, and if the states build up debt, of course, we know today that national debt is tilted in favor of the federal government. The federal government is a major debtor. But if the states go on a borrowing binge, like we had in the past, where the then President Muhammadu Buhari had to forgive or grant some level of concessions for the states, you are going to have a situation where the subnationals will not be able to discharge their responsibility to the society, and that could lead to some social disharmony. So it is absolutely necessary that they are very prudent in the management of financial resources at their disposal. If you look at what has happened in the past 8 months, 7 months this year, the 3 tiers of government has shared about 12 trillion naira, more than 42% over what they shared, about 8 trillion naira by the same time last year. But interestingly, some state governments are still borrowing, so you can't justify that level of borrowing given the increment in their revenue. But beyond that, the purpose of borrowing, like Ms. Oniha said, is mostly they say is going to infrastructure. And some of this infrastructure, government has not proven to be the most efficient financial resource deployer when it comes to deploying financial resources on fiscal goods or particularly infrastructure goods. Some of these can be better managed by private sector. In terms of cost value for money, the private sector is known to extract more value for money when they invest in infrastructure. The private sector is known to build physical infrastructure at a faster rate than the public sector. The private sector is known to reduce the cost of infrastructural build because they eliminate some of the wastages that are inherent in government procurement. So some of these reasons, it makes sense for the public sector, if they have to invest in some commercially viable infrastructure, to bring in private sector to do it with them, provide the right of way, which will not cost the state any additional cash resource, and then let the private sector build this. Felicity, there is a proof of concept we have in this country. If you cast your mind back, I don't know how old you are, if you are in your 40s or 50s, you will observe that there was a time when telecommunication infrastructure was an exclusivity of the federal government. And the government was building the masts. The government was extending the transmission lines, the cables. And I think it was said that Nigeria had only about 450,000 lines, active lines then. But when it was privatized and private sector now had to bring in private capital to that sector, today we have almost 200 million lines, active lines. You can almost get a line for peanuts. So it then means that private sector have a better capacity to build some physically commercially viable infrastructure than public sector. So there's no point wasting resources, burdening the state government, burdening our fiscal framework with debts just because the government said they want to build infrastructure, when that infrastructure can be built by private sector at no additional burden to any of us.
True enough. Just to answer your question, Mr. Chukwu, I am definitely over 40 and I am quite aware of some of the things you mentioned. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for speaking with us. We're out of time for this conversation. We do appreciate your time. All right, coming up tonight, Niger Delta youth groups go to war over NNPCL leadership. We will bring you this story and more after the break. You're watching tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. Nigerian troops neutralized more than 20 terrorists in week-long operation in various parts of Borno State. State governments urged to prioritize public-private partnerships over reliance on borrowing to fund infrastructure. And UK government warns thousands of international students risk deportation if they overstay their visas. Now, a fresh twist has emerged following the protest at the NNPCL towers in Abuja. Youth groups from the Niger Delta, who earlier demanded the resignation of the group chief executive officer, Bashir Ojulari, are now facing opposition from another faction. At a World Press Conference, the Niger Delta Ethnic Nationalities Youth Leaders Council declared support for the current NNPCL leadership. They alleged that the protests calling for Ojulari's resignation were politically motivated and sponsored.
Social legacy contracts, tighter financial oversight have prompted disinformation campaign, including recent false claim of his resignation. We wish to further stress the need for greedy Nigerians to allow Ojulari deliver on the ongoing reform in the company and to set new benchmark for corporate governance in African extractive industry. We urge the NNPCL Limited to stand as a mode of transparency, accountability, efficiency, civil engagement, because those values remain essential elements in restoring public trust and safeguarding the company as Nigeria's greatest national asset.
Activities of some online loan companies in Nigeria have raised serious concerns. These companies, often referred to as loan sharks, target individuals in need of quick cash but allegedly charge exorbitant interest rates with harsh repayment terms. Victims who are unable to repay their loans often face unbearable pressure, with some slipping into depression while also taking other drastic measures to get out of debt. The concerns surrounding these online loan companies are multifaceted. The mental health implications of this situation cannot be overstated, with many victims feeling trapped and helpless with no way out of the debt cycle. Stakeholders have urged the regulatory bodies such as the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission and the Central Bank of Nigeria to take decisive action to address these concerns. So last week, my colleague Victor Mbadike brought a special report on this subject. Today, we have Adedeji Olowe. He is one of the quick loan app operators joining us for a right of reply. He is joined by one of our guests from last week, Gabriel Marvel, a debt freedom expert. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. I'll start with you, Adedeji. How do lending app operators plan to balance their business goals with the need to protect borrowers from falling into debt traps?
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. Just to correct, I'm not a lender. I provide software to lenders.
Okay.
So
software.
Because
okay.
we provide software to lenders. Because we get to work with a lot of lenders, we have a very good view of what goes on in the market. First and foremost, I would like to let people know that only few lenders misbehave. and it's easy to look at thousands of lenders across Nigeria that are being kind of seen very unfavorable view. So
are you not being very generous when you say only a few lenders misbehave? Because I have received, been inundated with messages from people I've known like 14, 10 years back about some loan and how their behavior is bad. And I know people who have, according to the reports, there are more people. So when you say few people, few lenders misbehaving, are you being generous?
No, I'm not being generous, I'm being factual. So here's the thing, lenders in Nigeria process millions of loans every month, right? And then if you even go to FCCPC website, you see probably like over 200 lenders. How many lenders have FCCPC shut down? Maybe a few. Now, am I saying those guys are doing something wrong? Yes, they are doing something wrong, but majority are law-abiding citizens. And the reality is that when we deal with very sensitive situations like this, we have to really be very careful from tarnishing an entire industry by the misbehaviors of a few.
So since you provide software, I'm sorry to keep interjecting, but since you provide software for these people, is there a way you can perhaps get them to behave more appropriately within the laws governing the arrangement, other than going, I mean, is it legal in the first place for them to go beyond, take the person's contact and spread messages about the person being a debtor?
So much. We don't work with any unethical lender at all. It's part of our policy. We can't do that. We actually appreciate everything that FCCPC is doing. In fact, our team ensures we help our lenders to meet all the regulatory requirements. For example, we help lenders to get to the store. All the misbehaviors that lenders do, you can't do that with us. You can't, for any of the lenders that are working with us, you can't have access to customer data, their contacts. You can't have access to their pictures. Nobody will even work with you to do anything illegal. So we do that. But the truth is, while I provide software, it doesn't mean I control all the lenders in Nigeria. Some of these people that do bad things have their own software, and it is really, really bad. So, but what I just want us to put into perspective is, while some lenders are misbehaving, the majority of lenders are everyday people like me and you, who have raised money from investors, who have set up their businesses, who have decades of experience, and their parents, their husband, their wives, just like everybody else, trying to do an honest business in Nigeria. So,
all right.
But it doesn't take away from the fact that those who are misbehaving, they need to be dealt with. And what they do to their borrowers is totally unethical and is not acceptable.
All right, I'll come back to you. I do have more questions, but let's bring in Gabriel and just get his thoughts about all of this. Since yours is more of getting people to be more aware about some of the dangers that come with the practice of seeking so much loan, what steps can be taken to increase awareness and education on safe borrowing?
All right, thank you, Ma. First of all, my brother, thank you for joining me this evening. I'm happy to speak with somebody that is on the operating room, and I love one of the points he said where they deny access for these lenders, you know, to gain private files of people. But here is the thing. To just correct a point, first of all, it is actually a few of them that abide by the rule, and the host of other of them are very abusive to the entire rules and guidelines that govern financial sector. But back to the question that you asked me, the way we've tried our best, the loan shark review community, and many of us that are trying to be, you know, push this cause ourselves to involve the government, to involve a lot of personalities, and because of some privacy policy, I will not say some things online, but we see that the only way to bring sanity to many of these abuses is, one, by educating the people. So we have to become the bridge that bring the very policy of CBN, the very policy of consumer rights control, the very policy that govern finance in generally, and so that the people themselves can know the power that lenders have and the one that they do not have. And since we started our campaign, we have had record of over 50 to 60,000 people that have suddenly become free from the depression that comes because simply they are owing.
All right, Adedeji, there are some allegations about excessive interest rates and obviously lack of transparency with some of this lending app. Is there something your group that is legit is doing to check others who are behaving in this manner? And is there perhaps a standard acting procedure or interest rate procedure that should be popularized so people know what to expect?
Thank you so much. Let me put it this way. All over the world, including the UK, there are regulations that guide the kind of interest rate you can charge, especially for consumer loans. There are also regulations that guides how you apply penalties to loans as well. But when we look at the industry itself, when you look at the interest rate a lender could give, right, it's always a function of the economics. So in Nigeria today, the inflation rate itself is about 27%. So lenders, for example, raise money from investors. So take a typical lender who raises 100 million from investors at 2%, that's 24%. The lender has to give out money to everybody. So this is 100 million. Most of the money some of the money will not come back, not most. A lender actually has to have almost 97% collection rate before they can break even. So the truth is also in Nigeria, where in other countries where you get your money back because there are consequences for not repaying your loan. If you are in the US or UK, if you are owing money and you don't pay back, your name goes to the credit bureau, you're in trouble. But in Nigeria, the consequences are almost nothing. What that means is that the NPL, right, for lenders in Nigeria are higher than other countries. To stay in business, they are forced to raise their interest rate. So the truth is, in every regime, interest rate that you charge is a function of the risk and the inflation. And then, of course, obviously, lenders need to make money. But here is the interesting thing with lending. If you toe that line and you increase your interest rate too much, you have what they call a situation where you actually don't make money, because those who come to you are those who don't care about paying back anyway. So if you like make it 1,000% per day, they don't have the mind of paying back. So lenders always have to walk that fine line to find out what is the interest rate that is good enough to be able to cover the cost of fund, the cost of operating the business, the risk premium, and also that interest rate that will not make them to go to the side where they only attract customers that won't pay back. Now, so today, if you go to any bank in Nigeria today, even banks, which offer the cheapest fund you can think of, how much is that? You probably get about 30%. That's 2.5%. But even the banks are never usually available. So people go to lenders, but these lenders also get their money from banks. So you see them charging between 4%, 5%, 6%, depending. But once you see people strolling into the region of like 10% per month, then it's not going all right, because these are the interest rates that are really, really unreasonable, and you can only attract people that don't have the mind to pay back in the first instance.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Gabriel, what strategies can Nigerians employ to manage their debt effectively when borrowing, particularly from lending apps? And add to that, what resources are available to help them in this quest?
All right, thank you so very much, Matt. We had this meeting. I've invited loan apps, owners of loan apps. I've invited, sponsors of loan apps that come, let's talk. Let it not be like an enemy versus Nigeria something, or Nigeria versus the people. Now, this is some of the thing. The truth is this: 90% of people that take money from loan app take it with the intention to pay back. But the loan apps makes it very impossible for you to pay back. I'm trying to be as quick and as blunt as I can, no time to really explain. Why did I say so? You cannot charge interest rates extremely above the NPR. The NPR has already arrived at 27.50%, just the recent one that we have now. At least you want to take your charges, you should do it in a way that it should be reasonable. Are you aware that some of these loan apps charge at most at 40% a week, some 200% a year? I received a document this evening that charge 500% in 2 years. How does that make sense? So if there's going to be, if we want to talk about loan recovery, making it easy, the loan apps have to come to themselves and say, see, we can, especially most of them that claim they are microfinance bank, they should follow the framework of microfinance bank and ensure that their charge fee is not outrageous. That's number one. Number two, another thing that makes people run away from paying loan apps is the abuse of daily overdue interest. The CBN has a framework. In fact, the CBN has a framework on actually how loan or money loan interest should be charged. They said it should not be exorbitantly above the MPR. That means you can put your resourcing fee, you can put your strategies fee, but it should not be above it. And then for daily default interest, it is prohibited. CBN only permit for 1% a month. But this loan app, you're going to see somebody miss his payment today, or maybe he took a loan of just 20,000 naira. And in 1 month, 20,000 naira has become 300,000 naira. How will he pay? So you see, the loan app are the ones that are actually causing this. Number three thing they do, the use of threat and defamation. According to the Constitution, immediately you introduce threat and defamation to recovery of anything, it becomes a criminal offense. Yes, and such agreement instantly is dead on arrival. Lastly, most loan app, 90% of the loan app, they use false representation of government, personnel. They try to impersonate people, impersonate the police, impersonate lawyers, putting Nigeria in fear. So it's safe to say, if there's going to be, differences and see people start paying, this method and these practices have to be revisited by these loan apps. I would, if they have an organization to even invite you, I can help out a lot of strategies that will, and they will see loaners start paying.
I really wish we had more time. I thought we did, but I've just been told by my producers that's all the time we have. Adedeji, thank you very much for coming to speak from your perspective as a software provider. And of course, Gabriel, thank you for obliging us as well. Still ahead, Vietnam marks 80th independence anniversary. Details of this and more when we come back. Thank you for staying with us. Days after a train traveling from Abuja to Kaduna derailed, evacuation of the damaged coaches and repairs on the affected tracks have begun. Minister of Transportation, Saeed Al-Khali, says the realignment and full restoration of the tracks will be completed within 10 days. The Minister of Transportation, who led an inspection tour up the site, gave assurances that normal train operations will soon resume, while also outlining preventive measures being adopted by the ministry to reduce the frequency of train accidents in the country. The minister also admitted the need for reinvestment in railway infrastructure, maintenance and safety systems.
The loco was carrying 8 locomotives. We have the coach. The loco was carrying 8 coaches. We have successfully moved out of the place. As you can see, we are trying to fix the infrastructure so that we'll have a bigger crane, so that we move the coach and all the locomotives that are on the site. Inshallah, in the next 48 hours, we'll be able to move all of them out of the site. And after that, if we didn't have any weather challenge, in the next 10 days, we are going to restore the line. They are doing our best to ensure that such didn't happen again. However, it is the outcome of the investigation that will now reveal what actually happened. Then we look at it and we ensure it doesn't happen again by the grace of God Almighty.
Away from Nigeria, Ghana's President John Mahama has removed Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono from office with immediate effect on grounds of alleged misbehavior. The action follows the recommendations of a constitutional committee set up under Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution, which investigated petitions alleging misconduct. The committee, after reviewing testimonies and evidence, concluded that sufficient grounds of misbehavior existed and recommended her dismissal. The decision, announced by the presidency and confirmed by Minister for Government Communication, Felix Ofosu, was made in line with constitutional provisions requiring the president to act on the committee's recommendation. Now, the UK government has launched a campaign warning international students not to overstay their visas. More than 10,000 students have already received direct messages from the Home Office, and more notices are on the way. Officials say the move is in response to a sharp rise in asylum claims for former students, nearly 16,000 in 2024, compared with far fewer just 4 years ago. The Home Office now rejects unmerited claims more quickly and warns that those who break the rules risk deportation. The government has also shortened the post-study work period for graduates from 2 years to 18 months, part of its broader push to reduce illegal residency and misuse of the visa system. And one of our top stories tonight, Vietnam staged its largest ever public celebrations in Hanoi to commemorate the 80th anniversary of its declaration of independence. The capital came alive with patriotic displays as tens of thousands gathered to honor the historic day when Ho Chi Minh proclaimed the founding of a free Vietnam in 1945, ending decades of colonial rule. At dawn, around 40,000 troops and civilians paraded through the streets, moving in unison beneath a sea of national flags. The anniversary served as a reminder of Vietnam's struggle for sovereignty, while also showcasing national unity, resilience, and the government's emphasis on preserving the legacy of independence for future generations. Happy anniversary to them. The news returns with business, sports, and entertainment. Do stay with us.
The federal government has raised 3.3 billion naira from the August 2025 federal government savings bonds, according to the Debt Management Office. Data published on Tuesday shows 573.31 million naira was allotted to the 2-year bond due August 2027 at a coupon rate of 14.401%, while 2.74 billion naira went to the 3-year bond maturing August 2028 at 15.401%. The issue attracted 2,166 investors with settlements set for August 13, 2025. However, subscriptions were lower than July's 4.27 billion naira. In July, bonds carried higher coupon rates of 15.762% and 16.762% for the 2-year and 3-year tenures. And looking at the maritime industry, Nigerian importers face higher costs as French shipping giant CMA CGM announced a $500 peak season surcharge on cargo bound for West Africa, effective September 15, 2025. The levy applies to 20-foot containers of dry and reefer goods shipped under short-term contracts from Northeast Asia, Southeast Asia, China, Hong Kong, and Macau. Industry stakeholders have criticized the move, calling it exploitative. Former ANLCA interim president Pius Ujubono faulted the Nigerian Shippers Council for failing to act, while NAGAF deputy president Shegun Musa stressed the need for clarity on the surcharge's implications for Nigerian trade and port users. We take you through the stock market now. The Nigerian exchange closed lower again today as the all-share index declined 0.67% to settle at 138,737.64 points, with a drop differential of 0.67%, and market capitalization also dropped 87.78 trillion naira, deepening the week's bearish start. Now, looking at how the sectors performed, the banking index slipped 0.63% on sustained sell pressure, and the insurance index also fell sharply by 2.23%, reflecting weakness in low-cap counters. Oil and gas provided the only support, inching up 0.10% on select interest in energy names, and consumer goods shed 1.35% as profit-taking spread across major food and beverage stocks. Finally, industrial goods also weakened 1.47%, further showing a downward trend highlighted by investor caution. And that's it on business. I am Lekon Onobanjo. We'll bring you sports in a bit.
And in sport, the E1 Lagos Grand Prix, set for the 4th to the 5th of October, would make the first electric-powered racebed boat complete on African waters. Now, speaking at a media party today, E1 Series CEO Roddy Basso described Lagos as the ideal stage for the breakthrough, stressing that it is time for the city to fully embrace the blue economy. Now, Basso highlighted the event as more than just a race, but a chance to position Lagos at the forefront of sustainable marine innovation and clean energy. With 9 international teams racing on the iconic Lagos Lagoon, the championship is expected to showcase how sport can drive new economy opportunities while pursuing Lagos towards a future shaped by the blue economy.
So the water is the future. We see the energy, we see the determination. Again, I feel privileged to play a small part within this compelling vision. And this is why I strongly answer with, why not Lagos? Because Lagos needs to be in this map of global cities interested in the same values. And I mentioned Miami, I mentioned Monte Carlo, we were in Venice last year, Jeddah, Doha, and more to come for next year.
To football, 15 players are currently in the Ikotekpene camp of the Super Eagles of Nigeria as the team prepares for 2 crucial 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. Team captain William Troost Ekong, Amas Obasoje, Felix Agu and Raphael Yedika had arrived on Monday. They were joined today by Alex Iwobi, Calvin Bassi, Fisayo Dele Bashiru, Ola Aino, Bright Osai Samuel, Bosi Simon, Chidozie Awaziem, Adebayo Adeleye, Benjamin Fredericks, Bruno Yemechi, Wilfred Ndidi, and Frank Onyenka. Our first choice goalkeeper Stanley Wabali is expected to arrive tonight. Meanwhile, the team had its first training session earlier this evening. The Super Eagles face Rwanda in Uyo on Saturday and South Africa away in Bloemfontein in 2 matches they must win to stand any chance of qualifying for next year's FIFA World Cup in United States, Canada, and Mexico. And now to handball. Nigeria's under-18 women's handball team have intensified campaign in Lagos ahead of the 2025 Africa Women's Youth Handball Championships slated for the 14th to the 21st of September in Oran, Algeria. 19 players are currently training at the Roe Park Sports Center, Yaba, Lagos, under head coach John Uzo and assistant coach Bukola Duru. Sessions have been centered on tactical drills, fitness, and team cohesion as the squad aims to better its bronze medal finish at the last edition in Tunisia.
My team is definitely preparing hard, but in every tournament, a coach comes up with a philosophy, and my philosophy for this team is more strength on defense, and then we go on the attack, but more concentration is on the defense. Our target, first of all, is to qualify for the World Cup. That's the most important thing. And then the second target is to surpass what the other team did, which is mounting the podium either first or second. Okay, that's the target. Okay.
So based on what we heard about the previous under-18, they went there and they did very good. So we are expected to do more compared to what they did last time. So training is really intense.
And that's a wrap on Sports Update tonight. I'm Favor Itwa. Entertainment is next with Sam Dandy.
Favor already did the honors. Sam Dandy is here with the latest. Hi, Sam.
I'm doing good. I'm ready to get into entertainment.
Please do.
Well, let's start with this one. Guinness World Record holder Hilda Bassi is back with another daring feat, this time to cook the world's largest pot of Nigerian jollof rice. Now, after capturing global attention with her 100 hours cookathon in 2023, she now plans to use a custom-built pot measuring 6 meters wide and over 1 meter deep, with a staggering 22,619 liters capacity. Now, into it will go 250 bags of basmati rice and over 1,500 kilograms of tomato paste, chicken pepper, and her signature jollof blend. Now, the big day is set for September the 12th in Lagos, a food festival expected to feed 10,000 people. Now, Hilda's Cookathon had inspired a wave of challenges from endurance dancing to marathon singing, catwalks, and even makeup, making Nigeria one of the most active record hubs worldwide. For her, this new challenge is beyond records, she says, but about celebrating Nigerian food heritage and culture on the global stage. Now, while Guinness World Record welcomes global participation, individuals must secure approval before attempting any new records. Now, they had to say this, but we've had a lot of Nigerian record holders in the past, from Tunde Onokoya to Fola David to Teresa, who did makeup for over 100 hours, and I don't know how people do these things, but I guess everyone should try to break a record, maybe.
No, well, it's a good thing to urge everyone, but the reality is not everyone can do what she does. Yeah, so congratulations to her. Wish her the best. Let her get another record for herself. I wish I could join and eat the rice, though. Maybe, you know, we never say no to jollof rice.
Absolutely not. And we're not even going to compare Ghanaian and Nigerian jollof rice at this point.
Let's not go there. Ghana jollof rice is sweet. Ours is sweet. Let's leave it there.
Let's move from that one. Lil Kesh is back online after a relief for everyone. Now, the rapper born Keshinro Ololade shared a rare photo on Snapchat, lounging calmly and collected with bandages visibly on his ear and neck after the violent Lagos attack that shocked Nigerians weeks ago. Now, the photo is proof that the 26-year-old Shoki crooner is resting and recovering. Now, recall Lil Kesh was ambushed in Lagos, stabbed in the neck, and had his ears partially severed during a robbery that also saw expensive jewelry stolen. Thankfully, reports confirmed doctors managed to save the day through emergency surgery, and now he's healing. Earlier, he broke his silence with the heartfelt post, saying, "Life threw me a curveball, but I'm safe, healing, and blessed to be here." Now, the news had sparked heavy concern and well wishes, and prayers continue to pour in for the star. I don't know. We're waiting to see who are the culprits caught for this one, because
well, I'm not joining you in that hope, because a lot of things go unreported, and a lot of people get away with crimes that ideally should put them behind bars. I'm just grateful that Nigeria did not lose a celebrity, you know, a young man who is already making waves for himself, and very glad that he is back on social media and keeping safe.
Well, I do agree with you. We're super happy about it. Now, September reminds me of, honestly, Mobad, because, but hey, those are the biggest race in entertainment. That's my name, Sam Dandy.
That's all the news we have for you tonight. But before we go, here's a quick reminder of our top stories. Nigerian troops neutralized more than 20 terrorists in week-long operation in various parts of Borno State. State governments have been urged to prioritize public-private partnerships over reliance on borrowing to fund infrastructure. And UK government has warned thousands of international students risk deportation if they overstay their visas. As always, we'd love to hear from you. Please send your eyewitness reports to the number showing now on your screen. You can follow us on all social media platforms as well. We are at News Central TV. You can choose to watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Abo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I wish you a good night. See you tomorrow.